My child cries all the time. What can be done? Welcome, my name is Majida, and the content is useful to parents and early childhood educators. I will start with an example. JR goes to childcare. She cries when she arrives in the morning. She cries before starting any activity. She cries if she wants to play with the toy and when the toy is not available. She often cries as the day proceeds and asks to go home. Very important, parents and educators should not feel incompetent because the child is crying. Children cry for many reasons, and crying fulfills many functions. A strong cry or a piercing sharp cry might indicate that the child is in pain. The parents and caregivers should seek professional help. So should we attend to a crying child? Although there are cultural differences, the answer is yes. The educator or the parent should start to acknowledge the child verbally if they're not in close proximity to the child. However, if they are in close proximity and the child does not stop crying, they need to come to the child and see what's going on. However, as parents and educators, we should encourage children to verbalize what they want instead of taking the lead. So we need to have a bit of background. Infants communicate by crying. They cry to convey that they're hungry, uncomfortable, or just to signal their presence. They need stimulation or comfort. As babies grow up, the primary caregiver comes to understand what the need is depending on the intensity and the frequency of the cries. The crying eventually decreases. The next concept we need to account for is the child's type of temperament. According to Thomas and Chess, there are 3 types of temperament: easy, slow to warm up, and difficult. The easy child smiles frequently and approaches new toys, situations, and faces with a willingness to experiment. The slow to warm up child looks at new people, toys, and events, and instead of approaching, hangs on to an adult and observes the full situation prior to engaging in play or in conversation. The difficult child looks at any change in routines with caution and is wary of strangers. He or she cries easily and is willing to show a lot of resistance when faced with new material, adults, or even sometimes small changes in the immediate environment. Some actions to take to help the child get over crying are: first, it's important to know if the child has had breakfast. A child who didn't eat and is hungry will be irritable and will be crying and uncomfortable throughout the day, and that could be the reason. The second action is, did the child get enough sleep? We know that there are morning and evening people, and if the child is an evening person, then he or she is alert and has more energy at night. And so they would arrive to the childcare irritable and sleepy, and they could cry easily when faced with uncomfortable situations according to them. Bonding is very important as an action to take account for. So have one person in the childcare that the child could go to. Establish a secure base at the childcare so that child feels that if they need help, this is the person they could go to first. Other general actions are that the educator could have something the child could look forward to play with or could go to as soon as he or she arrives. The child could bring a favorite toy from home to keep if the rules allow it. If not, the toy could be kept with the child's belonging. If the child cries and looks in pain, consult a professional. The curriculum should be structured so the child knows what activities are coming up. The daily activities are predictable with no surprises, and this is very important for the difficult child. With time, the educator notes the tipping point where the child would start crying and acts to prevent it. So the recommendation is to have a plan to prevent the child from starting in the first place. One example is to announce that the children need to move on to the next activity within 10 minutes. This gives the child time to move smoothly from one activity to the next. Another example is if the child is putting together a jigsaw puzzle and starts crying, not knowing how to continue. The educator could ask the child to start putting the first piece. If the child refuses, the educator could show the child where to put the piece, hold the child's hand gently, or do it herself. Then the educator gives the child the next piece to put alone. We want the child to build a sense of achievement and to feel confident about one's ability. Often children cry because they don't know how to communicate their needs. They feel inadequate, or they don't know how to engage with other children. So helping them with those skills will also help them overcome crying. Couple references that were used were from Raising Children Network Australia and from the book Temperament and Development. For more content, subscribe, and for information about child development, please refer to the Future Global Children website, where you will find posts that address children's social, emotional, physical, cognitive, and language development. If you have an infant or provide care to a 1-year-old child, consider buying from Amazon the guide, Infant Development for Moms and Dads, 20 Questions and Answers for a Super Job. Thank you.